Hi, and welcome to part 3 of this PowerShell SQL or SQL tutorial series. In the last two videos, we really focused on the select statement and then how to iterate through the results of the select statement and see how we can export those and use a for each loop to loop through each row of the statement that we've executed on the database. So today we're going to be looking at inserting, we're going to be looking at updating, and also deleting. All three are fairly similar in the execution of how they are done. The only thing that really changes is the SQL statement. So I will be starting off with that now. I already have our file open from the last video because it is pretty much all the same steps. So to actually insert into a database, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file just so you guys can only see the insert statement here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to copy our SQL connection over. And we are also going to want to copy our SQL command over. And then we will also want to copy our SQL connection.close and paste that at the end. So this is really kind of our default file for anything that has to do with SQL databases in PowerShell. Now, what we're eventually going to be doing in this series is building out a SQL module, which is going to facilitate us doing these commands. Instead of having to write multiple lines of code every time, we will simply call a commandlet and pass it some parameters. So what we're going to first do is we are going to actually insert. So we already know for our insert statement in our database, we need to do the insert into log, and we've got to pass in our three parameters and then values, and then we actually pass in the value for those parameters. So what we're going to do here is we are going to do a SQL command text, and we are going to set that to our insert statement. So before we actually write out the insert statement, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a PowerShell object because that's what we're going to be working with to insert. I'm doing that as more of an example, a more realistic example of what we might do in a PowerShell script where we're creating a log and we want to put that log into the logging database. So what we would have is most likely something called like a log entry, and we would have that equal to a new object, and then the type name, we'll just give it PS object here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a add member, and then the input object will be log entry. The member type will be a note property, and then the name, let's give it let's give it app name. And we are going to do the value is going to be PowerShell script 1. We're going to keep doing these add members. So basically what I'm doing is I'm basically creating similar to what our database is going to be intaking, right? So we're going to have the computer name here. Or actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this to username, and I'm going to change this to action. I'm going to actually create a copy of our our AD group management script. So let's do group. So the username will be test user 1, and then our action will be added to group, and then our group will be test group A. All right, so then what we're going to want to do, because what we did if we remember, we had this details column. So this is really where the log of the application is going to be stored. So let's actually put that into practice here. And let's do an insert into log. And of course, it's going to take the app name, computer name, and then details. And it's going to be values. And then we're going to have all the values within single quotes. Now the app name, what we would be able to do is we would be able to store a variable here called script. Oops, I had it right the first time. Script name, let's do test script 1. So then we're going to put that in here. Script name. And then for our computer name, what we can do is we can actually use the built-in PowerShell variables, which is going to be $n, and then computer name. Now for the details, what we are going to do is we are actually going to put in the log entry object. And the way that we are going to do that is we're going to wrap it in, again, a variable wrapper with the $, open and close parentheses. And then what we can do is we could do a log entry, and we can pipe that to a convert to JSON. So we're going to be storing it as a JSON string. So this way, whatever we can use Python, we can use PowerShell after to read from that database and give us like a nicer report. So that's basically going to be our setup there. So what we can do is we can run all of this. And if I just show you guys what the log entry pipe to convert to JSON gives us, you will see that it gives us our object in a JSON format. So that's going to be super helpful down the line. So what we can do is with that command text, so let's just run these three things here. And then what we can do is we can do SQL command dot execute non-query, and open and close parentheses here, and we can run that, and we should get a little 1 that we can see here. So that means it executed correctly. And now if we actually come back to our select script, because we do know that we have that there, what we're going to do is we're just going to print out each row, and let's close our connection here. And we're just going to reopen it and read from our database here. And let's see what this gives us. So there we are. So here's all the details in the database. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 here. So 6, we see that it is from today. It just got ran. Our computer name is, this is the name of my server here. And then we have our app name that we gave it. And we also have the details. So then what we would be able to do is let's grab that 6th row. So let's do if row.id equals 6. Let's go ahead and let's print out the row. So now we should only get our 6th row. Perfect. And then what we could do is we could do a dot details. And then what we can do here is we can actually have, we can pipe that in a convert from JSON. Then if we look at that here, we will actually get a usable PowerShell object. So this is super cool. If we store the data in the database as a JSON, we could then do a report also using PowerShell, reading in from that database, and we can convert the details from that JSON back into a PowerShell object. So this could be super useful for a lot of different scripts if you're putting configuration files in databases. So you can store like a configuration object right into a database, which could be super handy. You can pull that later on and use it in other scripts or do scheduled tasks with those items. So that is how you would insert into a database. So again, fairly straightforward, not too much has changed. Really, it's just the command text that changed. We did an insert into, and then the method that we execute that query is changed. Now, if we wanted to update the database, again, it would be very, very similar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys an example here of where we're actually going to be updating our table here. So let's just run this here and see what it gives us. So let's do a write output row. So here we are. We can see all the rows here that we're getting. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's say we wanted to change all the items that were called test computer. We want to change all the rows that were test computer to test computer 3, let's say. So what we are going to want to do is we are going to come into this for each statement here. And what we're going to do, so we have already executed a select statement in here. So we already have our SQL command set up. We already have our adapter that's already filled that table. We have that data in our data variable. So what we are going to do is we are first going to check if the row computer name is test computer. So let's do a if row dot computer name is equal to test computer, or I'm going to do like, so this way it's not case sensitive. And then we're going to do that. And then we're going to do an open and close curly bracket here. And then we are going to do a write output row. So if we do that, now we will only get the rows that are from test computer. So we have the ID 1, 2, and 4. So that's perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to tell the database, I want you to update that computer name to test computer 3. So what we are going to want to do is we are going to want to take our SQL command and do the command text. And we are going to change that command text to update log. We are going to set the computer name, and we are going to set that to test computer 3, where now this is kind of up to you. Now what we could have done is we could have just done a simple update log computer name, set computer name test computer 3, where computer name test computer. That would be completely fine. But like I said, we just want to do everything through PowerShell right now just to kind of learn how to do those update statements. These are just kind of very simple examples that we're using here. So we're going to do where the row ID, or sorry, where the ID equals, and then we're going to reference our row.id. And then what we should be able to do is do a SQL command dot execute non-query once again. So the update statement, just like the insert statement, is an execute non-query. So let's do that here. And then what we might be able to do, because although I said this would be possible without the PowerShell statement, now what we could do with the PowerShell statement is also log all these changes that we're doing. So we can say we changed row ID 1, we changed row ID 2, we changed row ID 3, and we can store that in a database. We can store that in a text file. We could display it to the screen so we know exactly which one's being changed. We can have a lot more visibility this way than just simply running update log set computer name test3 where computer name equals test computer. So this is really just hitting that specific row. We're taking it row by row, a little bit safer. We could also, instead of doing the execute non-query, just kind of look at all the command text. Like we can print the command text before executing that query, and then we can modify the script and then execute that non-query. So let's just see what this does here for us and see what happens. So let's run the entire script here. So there we are. So it did run. So now what we are going to want to do is let's just look at the data here now completely. So if we look here, let's look at row 1. We can see that it's changed to test computer 3. 2, test computer 3. This is test computer 2, and then we have test computer 3 for number 4, and that was the last one that had the test computer. So the update statements work here. Now the last type of statement is going to be the delete statement. So what we can do here, we're going to take our same example from the update here, and what we're going to do is if the app name is equal to test. So let's just do if row.appName is like test. And again, there's no there's no star there, so there's no wildcard. So it will strictly be test, either all lowercase, all uppercase, or a mix of different characters. And then what we are going to do is we are going to say delete from log where ID equals the row ID, because it is the same thing there. So we should be deleting all the rows that are the test app name. So that's going to be 1, 2, and 5. So 1, 2, and 5 should be deleted. We should still have 6. We should still have 4 and 3. So 3, 4, and 6 should still be there at the end. So let's go ahead and let's run this entire script here. And let's just run this part here so we could see the database. And let's see what it looks like now. So here we are, 3, 4, and 6 are the only ones that are left. All the other ones are deleted. All the ones that had the app name of test are deleted from that database. So that is basically how you would perform the insert, the update, and the delete statements. And I gave you guys some pretty simple examples on how you would use those in a script. So what we're going to be doing in the next video is we're going to be looking to change this integrated security to use a username and password. Now, a little note about that video, I would prefer you guys using the integrated security, but if for some reason you guys don't have Active Directory, I mean, you guys could go look at the other videos that I've done with Active Directory to be able to integrate that security in there, or if you guys are using one computer, integrated security would work just as well. Just because putting a username and password directly in a script is definitely not recommended. There are ways to do it securely. You would be able to use like ClyXML or a password vault and have the script automatically get the password from those locations. So you are not putting in the password in plain text. But that is the not so great part about that. But I will show you guys, this way you guys will know how to do it, and you guys will have that ability to do both methods. And then once we've done that, we're going to be looking at creating our SQL module to be able to streamline all these commands and all these connections in one easy module that you guys can use. And then we'll implement that module into our automate Active Directory security groups file file that we've made a couple videos ago, a couple tutorial series ago, actually, at this point. So you guys should enjoy that. So please like, subscribe, comment down below, and hit that notification bell to be notified when the next video comes out. And I will see you guys on the next video.